Well, welcome to Elite Business Live 2025. I'm saying a hugely warm welcome to our studio audience here in the heart of London, in the UK, and especially if you're tuning in or catching up as well. Our theme for this next session, especially around sustainability. I met our next guest when I was hosting a gathering for the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and our next guest stood out in the room for what he was wearing. You'll see what I mean very shortly. I soon realized that the reason they wanted to stand out was because they wanted their business to stand out. And that is exactly what their business has done. So if you thought that toilet paper and tissue, nappies, wipes was only something that multi-billion-dollar corporates could take on, you'd be wrong. The co-founder of this next company that you'll hear all about has done just that. They've done it thoughtfully, and they've done it globally by harnessing a product that some of us don't think about that often. That product is bamboo. I'm talking about the co-founder of the Cheeky Panda. Please give an Elite Business Live welcome to the brilliant Chris Forbes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My keynote today is talking about sustainability versus survival. Sustainability is a very complicated area. It requires lots of time and effort. And what I try to do is I try to impart little bits of wisdom about how you as small business owners or how working in large corporations can think about sustainability and help try to make the world a better place. So some of you may have heard of Cheeky Panda. We started this business 9 years ago. And it was a very simple idea. We had, my wife came up with the idea, Julie, and she said, I want to make tissue out of the world's fastest growing plant, bamboo. And I said, well, why would you do that? And she went, well, it's the world's fastest growing plant. I went, okay, is it any good? And she went, it's really good. It's really soft, it's really silky smooth. I went, okay, let's try it and let's give it a go. And we took that concept from an idea to a place. Last year, we sold 4.6 million units. So it does go to show that you can take things from a concept and actually make them to scale. This is my wife, and a picture of some of the lovely products that we have. And what we try to do is we try to balance between profitability and sustainability. There's a lot to this because people will always ask you to do things. And then what you've got to do is you've got to choose the battles that you pick and choose the wars that you want to fight. And not everything that people ask you to do, you actually need to do. And there's so many certifications out there with sustainability. You can't do them all. And each single one of them then costs money to go through the certification process, costs time, and then it also costs a maintenance fee as well. So, you know, it's about understanding about what you can do and when you can do it. And I think when we started this business, we started off with toilet tissue. We started off with a pack of 9, and it was wrapped in plastic, and that was the way that we could get to market because no one had really done paper packaging. And then what happened is now all our sort of toilet rolls and kitchen rolls are wrapped in paper. So what happens is you go through different iterations, and I think that's one of the biggest learnings that I can give to people is start somewhere, right? You don't always have to be all the bells and all the whistles. Get yourself in, iterate, learn, and that's how you can become better versions and help the planet as well. So our solution, as I sort of mentioned, our products are mainly plastic-free. All the paper products are plastic-free, biodegradable packaging. We have a lower carbon footprint than traditional recycled tissue. We believe that they're better quality as well. We're a bestseller. So if you go onto Amazon, you will see that Cheeky Panda is often the bestseller. We've got over 35,000 reviews. We're FSC certified. That was the one that we always chose from the beginning to be FSC certified because that's kind of like the gold standard. But not just having a gold standard, but it's also assurance in your supply chain. So if you've got a particular body that you know is the trusted one, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Don't try to find a different one. Maybe just kind of go with the main one and sort of say, actually, do you know what? That maintains a level of risk assurance. We then became a B Corp. We were one of the first 100 companies in the UK to become a B Corp. Some of you might know B Corp, but B Corp was not heard of at all, really, in 2019. And it took about a year to actually go through the B Corp process. And we were looking at it when we were growing it and said, actually, why are we doing this exercise? And what it was doing, it was building pillars. It was building pillars in terms of HR policies. It was building pillars in terms of how we look at environmental stuff. It built pillars in terms of reporting. And I said, if we just looked at it from a framework point of view, and if B Corp never became as big as it did today, it wouldn't have mattered, because actually it gave us these pillars that, as a team of 5 people, that we're now 35 people, we've been able to build on these lovely pillars. So highly recommend it. Make your stuff look good as well. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have the world's best product, but if it doesn't look nice, then people aren't really going to buy it. So, you have to kind of create that, particularly in this world. Like, we live in an Instagram world, we live in a TikTok world, we live in a meta world where people are looking for that desirability. And I think if sustainability is really going to take on mainstream, it's got to be desirable. It's got to be something that I look at and I go, do you know what? I really like the look of that. And yeah, everything's made out of bamboo. So our solution is we've just got loads of really, really cool features. And that's, if you build in cool features into your product and you can talk about them, then that makes you desirable. Why people ask us, and they ask us all the time, they say, so, well, what's wrong with the tree? Well, we use a lot of trees every single year. We cut down over 1 million trees just for tissue. Trees are the lungs of the earth. That doesn't sound very sustainable to me. Now, it's not to say that there isn't a place for trees. We're not anti-tree. It's just saying that, actually bamboo is the world's fastest growing plant. It's a very versatile material. It produces absolutely wonderful quality products. If people switch to bamboo, then it actually helps make the balance between using too many trees and actually alternative resources. And I think if you can create like high quality products at an affordable price point, then that makes it very interesting. And if you look at some of the issues that we have, and even the big corporations, like P&G in January, there's a big lawsuit that's come out of them. Basically, they're cutting down the Canadian boreal forest. We do live in a world of stretched resources. So if we can kind of balance out with more sustainable ones, then I believe that we'll end up in a better place. Now, investing in sustainability costs money, right? So everything that we have here, we didn't start off with that day one. That's taken us 9 years to get to this point, right? And if you looked at the UN Global Compact and the Scope 1, 2, 3 analysis, they're exceptionally complicated. We've got sustainability analysts that actually works full-time putting this sort of stuff together. You're never going to be able to do this if you're a 6-month, 1-year-old startup, right? But what you can do is you can set yourself milestones. You can set yourself goals, and you can kind of sort of say, okay, well, all right, well, maybe I don't need to think about where I want to be in 6 months, but maybe I set a plan for 3 years' time, and then work backwards, and then kind of sort of say, actually, we'd like to have, like maybe a B Corp status, or we would like to do Scope 1, 2, 3, and then how do you do that? And then kind of look at where your core strengths are as well. Now, it just happened that, my wife is a CEO. We didn't do it by design. She was the better person to lead the company. But, that really plays well into, female ownership, and in procurement, particularly if you're working in the business-to-business side of things, small businesses, ethnic minority businesses, and female-led businesses score lots of points in procurement things. So when you actually can go into tenders, you can go up against large corporations and you can win. So, every company has a superpower, and it'll be you that are the superpower. So what you need to do is kind of think about your products, your services, and then you kind of sort of think, actually, what do I really bring to the party? What's my major thing? And then what service are you offering that's actually going to add benefit? So there's some really nice lessons there in terms of what our journey's become, and how you might be able to apply that for yourselves. We've got some wonderful traction. We love these emojis. These emojis that we have, we've got about 100 million views for these pandas. They're super cute, and it really helps sort of tell our brand. But I mean, it helps us talk about boring things like numbers in a fun way. So financially, we're sitting at around about sort of £15 million turnover. We've had a really great compound growth rate. And we've got a really great penetration in the market, right? We're in Waitrose, we're in places like Boots. I think we're in 10,000 different retail stores. We've got mass distribution across B2B. We work with some of the largest office supply companies like Lyrico and Bunzl. You know, you'll find in hotels around the country, like Pizza Hut, Edinburgh Zoo, all use Cheeky Panda. And you know, if you're a company, you could, you know, particularly if you're in consumer goods like what we are, you're only as good as your distribution network. You know, and if your distributors support you, then you can do great things. And I think we've been very, very lucky that the fact that so many people have wrote so many great reviews about our products as well. So, you know, your customer is your best advocate. And even if you're like a small services business or you're a product business, learn from what your customers tell you. Sometimes they might not like things, and sometimes you actually go, do you know what? I can fix that and I can change it. Or where they actually say, I love that, then start to shout about it, you know, really promote it. And I think, you know, storytelling is such a big part of what we are, what we do. You know, everything should start in sustainability, should start with your mission. Like, so our mission was we're using the world's fastest growing plant. And if we use the world's fastest growing plant, it's got to be better than using trees. And so our mission is all around bamboo. Everyone can have their own mission, but that's our particular mission. And then your vision, okay, well, I've got my mission, now I've got what my vision is. And, you know, our vision is that we want to disrupt the tissue and hygiene sector. We want them to look at how they're doing their packaging. You know, I think you can go into the supermarket and you'll see pretty much all the toilet paper packaging is in plastic. And so I say, actually, why does it need to be plastic? Maybe if we can show the big guys, actually, that a small company like us can do it, that actually helps positive change. And you don't necessarily need to create this us and them argument. So sometimes you can be the person that sort of shows the way. And that's kind of our vision, is to kind of, you know, it's a great legacy. You know, if you can turn back and sort of say, when this is my mission, and then my mission and my vision aligns, then, you know, this is kind of where you get into the how do you do it. And everyone's got their different how. And what I would say in the world of sort of startups or small businesses, everyone's got an opinion. What you need to do is you need to choose the right people to listen to, choose the right people to talk to. Just because your mate, you know, John, who's been friends with you for 20 years, gives you an opinion, he doesn't know anything about the sector. He probably knows less about the sector than what you do. But if somebody that is maybe in your sector tells you maybe you should look at these things, then they're the expert. So what I would sort of say is it's understand, you know, the sector, understand and surround yourself with great people. And, you know, I'm quite a sociable person. So what I did is when I started this business with my wife, Julie, is we surrounded ourselves with great people. We surrounded ourselves with people that knew more about the industry than what we did. And we did it by events like this. We did it by sort of just general networking. And, you know, people gave us shortcuts and short tricks about stuff that you could have learned and failed. It's like, actually, we know that's a risk. So while I might have had one friend on one side that didn't do anything else giving me advice about the business, it wasn't them that I was listening to. It was people that have been there and done it before. And I think, you know, we've got some wonderful key achievements. I think that 4.6 million units, I think that's, we've got hundreds of thousands of customers in the UK, and it's such a wonderful thing when, you know, I meet people and they say, I use Cheeky Panda at home. It's very warm. And probably when I started this business, I always thought it could be good, but I never knew it would have the impact it did. And I think that's what, you know, why I still love the business today, is because I get so many great feedbacks from, you know, people that I just meet, and they say that they love the products. This is a little video. This is a great bit of storytelling. So what we had, and we all think about this video in different ways, but what we had is we had people saying, it's made from China, how can it be sustainable? And it's like, well, we all live on a planet, we all live in one world, the whole planet is interconnected. Just because something's made somewhere, it doesn't mean that the people are bad, and it doesn't mean the processes are bad. So how do we take that and how do we demystify it? And this is our little creative story.
Welcome to modern China and Shanghai, one of the most advanced cities in the world.
This is Chinese countryside. It's very pretty. There's a temple, little Chinese temple there. People believe in Buddhism here. Bamboo forest is a biodiversity heaven. While I'm here, I see butterflies everywhere. Look, and I've seen 4 types of different butterflies.
When you harvest bamboo, you don't clear cut.
You harvest a few poles per acre and they grow back so it retains its biodiversity. When you harvest trees, you clear cut forest. It destroys all the biodiversity.
This is basically the quality control process to make sure 100% bamboo is properly quality controlled before production.
So if you think about it, to be able to get this amount of wood pulp would take 15 years. The same amount of wood pulp we can get with bamboo is every year. This is a chipped bamboo, so we saw the chipping process, and then this is the next stage which takes us into the pulping process.
And what you'll see here, this is the pulping machine. Now, a lot of people think they're using cheap Chinese machine to do the pulping process, when in actual fact we're using the most modern Western machinery to be able to create the bamboo pulp.
So this is bamboo pulp. We're standing next to 300 tons of bamboo bales. This is what it looks like before it gets turned into mother reels.
And then this is our conversion factory. In the conversion factory, all the roofs are covered in solar panel to be able to generate as much electricity as possible. And then we've got a waste recycling system, and the water goes through the waste recycling so we can capture as much recycled water as possible. And at the end of it, the beautiful thing is that you can actually see that the fish can swim in the tank because the water's so clear. And then what we do is we take the bamboo pulp and then we turn it into these 1-ton mother reels. And as you can see, we've got this great big Valmat machine, and that makes 1-ply toilet tissue, so it ends up as finished product, which is a 1-ton reel.
And once you've done your 1-ton reels, you store them here. So you store them then to cut them into smaller products later. So this is how we make toilet tissue. We take these 1-ton reels. Each one of these is 1-ply. And as you'll see here, you've got like a 1-ply, you've got a 2-ply, and then this takes to 3-ply. The toilet tissue then gets turned into a core. This is where it all gets cut up into small ones, and then it gets sliced. You get this. And then this machine takes these smaller rolls and then cuts them into individual rolls. We then see the individual rolls come out there. So that's how you take 1-ton reels and turn them into 3-ply toilet rolls.
We have family blocks on the left-hand side here, with the living room, with the air conditioning, with the washing. If you're single, you get like a one-bedroom flat, and that's all subsidised by the factory. And it's actually, the standards are really nice, and it's beautiful green trees here. So when you sort of combine, you know, the quality of living, the wages that you're getting, and the subsidies that you also get with the food, the standard of living is great. You know, that's why they've got the cars in the car park, and this is why it's such an amazing thing to be able to showcase how good a quality of life it is actually when people are making the bamboo tissue.
I love that video. And I love that video because that means that if I'm working with a distributor, I don't need to be in the room. The message isn't diluted. When somebody tells a story and then somebody else tells a story, and the story goes through about 3 or 4 different versions, you lose the different version of the truth. If you can actually do video really, really well, then actually you maintain that one version of the truth. And if somebody's sort of like doing lots of different products and lots of different things, they've got too much to, particularly the more complicated your product is or your service is, you can lose it. But yeah, video is a great way to maintain that. And this is one of my favorite philosophical questions that I love asking, is when we think about business, what comes first? Is it the chicken or is it the egg, right? So is it sustainability or is it business? And, you know, I think that everyone's got their own version of the truth that we can answer to that. For us, it was always the bamboo. It was always like it was the egg. So the bamboo was our piece, and then it becomes a chicken. So my thing about when we talk about business is you can have a sustainable business, but then if you have to do it in such a way where it costs so much money, you're not going to have a business, right? And in business, cash is king. It's probably one of the most important lessons that I can ever give. We've got some horrible stats. Something like about 90% of businesses in the UK fail in their first 3 years. And it's not because they've got a bad business, it's just they can't maintain the cash. And if we've all got bills to pay, you've got rents, or you've got mortgages, and you've got outgoings, how can you make it work? And when I started this business, I carried on with my other business for about 3 years before I got ourselves into a financial place where actually I could sell that other business and then focus full time on Cheeky Panda. So what does cash mean for a business? You need to think about your balance sheet, like your starting capital. You need to think about runway. I always sort of say, you've always got to think sort of 12 months ahead, and that, you know, sometimes that's just a P&L statement. You're going to need to think about how much money have I got coming in and how much money have I got going out. And if you can always kind of sort of think to yourself what the next 6 to 12 months are, then you're actually always going to be okay. And then, you know, growth is, you know, how do you stand out from the crowd? And this is like why Ollie said about the panda hat. Is, if I went to a room of 100 people, everybody just blends into each other. Unless you know the person, then nobody's going to come up. If you turn up in a panda hat and stand in the middle of the room, lots of people will just come up to you and say, hey, who are you? And they'll introduce yourself, you'll make connections, you'll make network. And even if the people don't come up to you, I can guarantee somebody will ask somebody, why was there someone wearing a panda hat? So, you know, when we did these early networking events, about 100 people in the room would end up talking about our business. And I think that's just like a very, very clever way about how you can kind of grow, how you can kind of grow smart without having to spend lots of advertising money. What's sort of little hacks you can do. And then how can you build sustainability into that? You know, how can you make, you know, I believe that at some point in time that, you know, sustainability will stop becoming a word and all the products that we work with will kind of be sustainable. And I think that would be like a really nice society to live in, and certainly one that I want my son to grow up in, where, you know, we live in a world where we don't talk about sustainability products, but that just becomes a natural thing that all products are. Now, we are kind of here in the matrix in terms of channels. When we started, we were just marketplaces, right? So you have to choose which battles you're going to pick. Marketplaces or like D2C are very, very easy places, particularly in consumer goods to start off, because it doesn't require large capital. As soon as you start to move through other channels, like retail or sort of B2B, you can end up getting yourself into long cash flows, rebates, promotions, listing fees. So you have to kind of sort of choose like where you are, and where you start might not be where you end up. So, you know, this is a really nice sort of understanding about, like, you know, what an omni-channel business looks like and what it kind of looks like at the stage that we're at, but also what it might look like for where you are. And importantly, build a great team. Build a culture that you are proud of. Build the people that kind of sort of wake up in the morning and are happy to work with you. And, you know, if you've got people that aren't happy to work with you, then there's lots of people that would be happy to work for you. So I think there's a lot of things that we talk about as sort of founders, particularly in scale-up companies, is hire slow. And, you know, if somebody's not working out and they're the disruptive influence, then, you know, it's probably a good idea that they're not there. So it's, because, you know, one person can bring the whole place down, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So always make sure that you've got this really sort of strong base. And if you've got a strong base and you can do fun things and you can do great things, and you can end up with a lovely business like what we have, with a lovely range, which we do: regular toilet tissue, system toilet rolls, hand towels, wipes, sanitary pads. We just launched them, actually. They're done so well. We did a soft launch on Amazon. We sold 2 containers straight away. It was amazing. So you end up with all these lovely products like straws. You know, they don't disintegrate. You know, if you have really great quality products, then people love it. And I think, you know, my advice to people is, if you can create, you know, desirable packaging, sustainable packaging, and great products in it, then you've got a great act. And my final statement is, I love this statement. It's like, oh, how can we as like one person make an impact in this world? Actually, we can't. It's impossible, right? But small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. And I think, you know, we can all get behind that, and little switches and little things that we can do can make a big difference. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Ollie.
Excellent, as ever. Please have a seat. I've got some questions already coming in for you. We've just got a few minutes for some sort of one-to-one questions for Chris, if you've got them in the studio and online. Thank you, for that. I'm going to get going with these straight away. Here's a question from Simon Priest, tuning in. Can you grow bamboo in the UK, and could your manufacture be done in the UK?
You can grow bamboo in the UK. Lots of people have got bamboo in their garden.
Yeah.
I think we use about 100 hectares of bamboo currently for the production of our products. So, I think as a long-term project, we're looking at near sourcing into Europe, where as long as you've got, it's not too cold, so it grows in Britain. It grows better in places like France and Portugal.
Yeah, okay.
But you really need to sort of invest. It's a bit like growing vines. It takes about 3 to 5 years to get the yield.
Yes.
So there is people that are growing bamboo, but it's not there yet. So in about 5 years' time, it will be there. And in terms of manufacture, we already make the wipes in the UK already.
Yeah, okay, great. We'll look out for questions in the studio, but here's another question that's come in. Who were the most, this is Harry Verks, thank you, Harry, for this question. Who were the most important hires that brought growth to your company?
Our graduates at the beginning. Couldn't afford anybody else. Hired a grad.
Yeah.
They don't really have any understanding about what work ethic is or anything like that, and so you just give them tasks. And that's just...
You mean in a good way? They work very hard.
Just get on with it, and they don't have a complicated, I can't do this because my manager...
So that was the early
My manager didn't tell me I couldn't do that. So there's this naivety in terms of using that energy of youth.
The benefit of what you don't know. Okay, and how about more recently as you've scaled up?
You bring in experts. Because when you're small, you can make a mistake that might cost you £1,000 or £2,000. It doesn't hurt. When you get to the size we are, these mistakes can cost hundreds of thousands of pounds.
And you're continuing to grow right now. What type of talent do you find hardest to get your hands on?
I think the creative bit is lots of people sort of talk themselves as good creatives, but finding great creatives. I think there's such a demand in terms of like sort of TikTok and Instagram and stuff. Like everyone wants the best creative.
Well, that sounds like a broadcast to me. If you know the right creators, how about in this front row? Feel free to say who you are. You don't have to. We've just got a few minutes left, and then we'll introduce more guests for a wider conversation. Welcome.
Thanks for that. It was great. I'll be a new customer now for sure. I really enjoyed that. So I'm Dan, the founder of Boldness. You actually look like my badge as well. So yeah, good to meet you. I'm really curious, I think, where my business is a startup and we do have a product line in development. I love how the idea of decarbonisation and circular economy can actually open up a lot of innovative thinking, which can differentiate you. Are you able to kind of share observations or initiatives that you're developing yourself that are circular economy friendly, that can inspire other startups or enterprises to be more conscious about what they're doing and the distinction that can bring to them?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think having sat on the sort of B Corp packaging and plastic committee, a lot of it's trying to sort of think about like circular packaging and reducing packaging waste. And if we can reuse packaging and we can work within the supply chain where we don't have like shrink wrap and stuff like that, and we can use like pallet covers, we can reduce a lot of unnecessary waste. It's a big topic, but I'd love to be able to discuss it with you in more detail.
And if you've seen just how much my family use of toilet roll, you'd be absolutely amazed. There's a saving right there in one household. Any other quick questions? Yes, just on the second row. Welcome to Elite Business Live.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Just quick question. I was wondering, how did you get into the Chinese market, and how did the development and relationship with the manufacturer?
So how did you get into the Chinese market? And then just the second part of the question, how did that relationship with the manufacturer develop? Yeah, brill.
So my wife, Julie, is Chinese. So that gives a significant shortcut into the language barriers. And then working with the Chinese, and then eventually what we did is when we started to scale, we hired some sort of local people that had worked for our factory, and they decided to join us.
Well, except, Chris, despite that advantage with Julie, that doesn't always mean you've got the connection. So how did the connection come about as well? Was there anyone who helped you on that journey? Or did you know the people already?
No, we didn't know them, no.
Yeah.
We literally flew to China for the first time to investigate it, and we teed up a meeting with a factory. jumped on a plane, went into the mountains. Took about 7 hours to get from the airport to the bamboo forest. And it's imagine driving from like London to Scotland and all you see is bamboo.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're never going to run out of this stuff. And then when I met them, I was like, well, you know what? If I can transform the market, we can have a big business with you. So,
So what an inspiring first visit. I'm going to ask a cheeky, a final question. Any advice for any of us, shall we say, working with a family member?
Choose right. Listen, I think the most important thing is if you always fight with that family member, probably don't go into business with them.
Okay, great.
And if you can know your strengths, I always kind of sort of think if you've both got exactly the same skill set, you're more likely to come at loggerheads. I'm more naturally a sort of salesperson than what my wife is, so I kind of sort of do more of the sales things, and she does more of the products and design. And I think if you can find that complementary skill set, you're almost kind of saving yourself a lot of money in salary as well.
And I should say, it is a winning combination. If you needed any further evidence of that, in this room last night, one of our award winners for the EBL 100 was indeed the Cheeky Panda. So hot off the press, our huge congratulations to you, Chris, and the Cheeky Panda. Well done.
Thank you, Ollie.